and let us all do we can to build a better future. So it's about the macro and the micro. The micro and the macro. The mackerel and the macaroni? What am I saying? Well, gee, apparently AOC is on a warpath now. AOC is calling for Fox News and Tucker Carlson to be punished for inciting violence. Whoa. On January 6th. We got brain dead idiots running Washington, D.C. Now, I know what everyone's going to type in the comment section below. Well, Doug, kid, of course we do. Of course we do. Yes. But at this point, I think all of us are running out of words what to call these politicians at this point. They're turning January 6th into this world epic event. All it was a bunch of dumb idiots, either one causing a ruckus or either being let inside by the police. The Capitol Police inside the Capitol building. And they had a little tour. Oh, what? Some dude wearing a shaman bison hat was inside and standing at the podium where the Speaker of the House was at, who was giving a tour. I mean, come on. January 6th was not this world-shattering event. You want to know it's a world-shattering event? Okay, and it happened in antiquity, but I think it was a world-shattering event. Maybe when Caesar crossed the Rubicon into Rome. Now, there's something to talk about. Like, holy cow, a Roman legion is marching on Rome. What the hell? January 6th is being hyped up into something that it's not, that it's just not. And I'm tired of it. They keep on saying, oh, it was almost the end of democracy. Democracy died a long time ago in this country, okay? We have an oligarchy ruling over us. The same people who own our politicians control our media, control our food, control every freaking thing. That's 10 times worse than January 6th. It's 100 times worse than January 6th. So anyways, let's just get this started. I got to just show this to you guys. So there's an article. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has accused Fox News and its host for inciting violence in January 6th Capitol riots, as she called for media organizations to be held accountable for dangerous content. So what, AOC? You want more censorship? What are you going to do? I mean, seriously, at this point, I don't know what else to say to AOC at this point. The New York Congresswoman addressed Fox News' $787.5 billion settlement with Dominion voting systems as she sat down with the former White House press secretary, Jen Psaki, on her MS or BS DNC program on Sunday morning. Good morning, Sunday morning. She said it would have been better for the country if the case in which Dominion accused Fox News of defamation for airing false claims about voter fraud in 2020 election was not concluded with a settlement. Oh, wow. So in other words, hang on. What would have been best for the country would have been to demand an apology and not settle until we got that, she said. Hey, AOC, are we ever going to talk about the election fraud that took place during the Democratic primary? You know, for your buddy, your fantastic friend, Senator Bernie Sanders in the 2016-2020 primaries. Are we ever going to talk about that? Hey, audience. Hey, let's have democracy in the chat. I know, controversial statement because, you know, hey, apparently, you know, we may or may not have a democracy. Type 1 if you think AOC will one day address the election fraud that took place during the 2016 and 2020 primary. Type 1 if she will. She's going to bring it up, kid. Just you wait. She's got a secret, special, awesome sauce plan. Type 2 is like, what are you talking about, kid? Stop. Just stop. No one's, even Bernie doesn't talk about it, okay? Nobody talks about it anymore. So then AOC goes on to say, we have real issues with what is permissible on air. What is permissible? Gee, it wasn't too long ago you couldn't talk about the Hunter Biden laptop story or anything about the pandemic, but all of a sudden now, hey, whoa, something has fundamentally changed. We saw that with January 6th, and we saw that in the lead up to January 6th and how we navigate questions, not just the freedom of speech, but also accountability for incitement of violence. This is the line that we really have to explore through law as well. She went on to call for media organizations to be held accountable for inciting violence with their content. Okay, I don't recall any single point in time where Tucker Carlson just jumps on his table, holds the American flag, and says, let's go charge at these bastards, and screams while running at the camera. I don't recall seeing that. Hey, but who knows? Maybe I'm going senile. maybe this is finally it. Kid has finally gone nuts. But I am sick and tired of hearing about how January 6th was this end-all, be-all of our democracy and how everything was at risk. None of that was true. She goes on to say, I believe that when it comes to broadcast television like Fox News, these are subject to federal law, federal regulations in terms of what's allowed on air and what isn't. Gee, same time like how corporate media was pushing Russiagate or silencing the Hunter Biden laptop story or calling into questions about the pandemic or how Bernie Sanders and progressives were smeared by corporate media. Look, I mean, I know Fox News is part of corporate media, but MSNBC, CNN, CBS, ABC also played a role in it too. Hey, wasn't too long ago in the early 2000s, 2003, when all of the media was in agreement, like, yep, there's WMDs in Iraq, right? When you look at what Tucker Carlson and some of these other folks on Fox do, it is very, very clearly incitement of violence. This is violence, very clearly incitement of violence. And that is a line we have to be willing to contend with. So here, just because I had to see it, you're going to have to see it too. First, again, I want to pull up this video because you have to see it with your own eyes, folks. The absolute cringe. So first, here is Glenn Greenwald. The people who endlessly and shrilly insist that they are fighting fascism consistently advocate for a union of public owner, CIA, FBI, Department of Homeland Security, and corporate power, big tech to censor the internet. The president ignore court orders, advisory media to be adversary media to be banned. Very odd anti-fascism. So here's AOC. AOC live on air.
Federal regulation in terms of what's allowed on air and what isn't. And when you look at what Tucker Carlson and some of these other folks on Fox do, it is very, very clearly incitement of violence. Very clearly incitement of violence. And that is the line that I think we have to be willing to contend with.
Yes. So here's a longer version of that, just so all of you can see it again, because let's face it, you need to hear it for yourselves.
And do you think media organizations or social media platforms should be accountable for the role for being platforms for incitement?
I believe that when it comes to broadcast television like Fox News, these are subject to federal law, federal regulation in terms of what's allowed on air and what isn't. And when you look at what Tucker Carlson and some of these other folks on Fox do, it is very, very clearly incitement of violence. Very clearly incitement of violence. And that is the line that I think we have to be willing to contend with. And
so if you're not concerned by this, I don't know what else to tell you. I truly don't. Okay, so AOC's on board with what? The silence and censoring of somebody like Tucker Carlson. Look, hey, guess what? There's a lot of things and a lot of people who I disagree with, right? But I'm not going to sit here on this platform and call for the immediate censorship and silence of anyone that might have a different perspective or point of view. Now, obviously, there are very, 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 very bad people out there who, again, abuse the First Amendment. But then the vast majority of people out here use it for good, to share their perspective and opinion. Now, the thing is, AOC's quick to start wagging the finger at Fox News. How long is it till she starts wagging the finger at other media outlets? Because the thing is, when you start saying incitement of violence, well, that can then be done towards anyone else in media, be it establishment media or independent media. This is the Pandora's box that the Democratic establishment keeps on opening up all the damn time. And I am concerned about, well, how AOC herself is still silent about what's happening to, again, the 4 black socialists that have been, arrested and are trying to turn these 4 socialists into felons by the Biden-Harris administration. The Department of Justice is going after these 4 individuals. Now, look, we talked about this on Hard Lens Media, especially with how Tucker Carlson was speaking to Glenn Greenwald about that, right? So I want to pull up this video here because, again, I'm waiting for the day for the squad. Maybe they'll say something now or tomorrow, hopefully before it's too late, because AOC is quickly to say, hey, silence and censor Tucker Carlson. But is she going to do anything about this? Because when you have people like even Glenn Beck, not just Tucker Carlson, but even Glenn Beck talking about this, we should be a little bit concerned about the priorities of what the Democratic establishment or the just us Democrats are doing.
This is actually a chance for the constitutionalist right to actually stand up and make this an issue, because we have nothing in common with these people. And I don't want anyone silenced, anyone. And this is a chance for us to stand up and do what the press will never do for somebody on the right. They should have stood up with Alex Jones and said, we don't like the guy. We don't like the guy. But he has a right to say what he's going to say. The same thing we should be now doing on this side, because A, it'll just confuse the hell out of them, and it will show that we actually have principles behind what we say.
You have to have principles behind what you say. Otherwise, what it seems like you're saying is just kind of a special pleading for your own allies. And I'm really glad to hear that, because as you know, as well as anybody, Glenn, it is very common for people on the right to be accused of being Russian agents. That is probably the go-to accusation by establishment liberals and kind of the never Trump wing of the Republican Party that accuses everybody who disagrees with them of being a Kremlin agent, of serving the Russian government. And if you now let the Biden Justice Department expand what that means and allow them to turn you into a felon, not just ruin your reputation or ban you from social media, but prosecute you criminally under federal law, that is an extremely dangerous precedent, including for lots of people who have different ideologies than these defendants.
Now, look, because they brought up, especially what happened to Alex Jones when especially in 2018 when he's kicked off majority platforms. Look, when we talked about this, especially when we were on radio, Daniel and I said that this is setting a dangerous precedent for so many other groups to be censored and silenced. And the thing is, I'm seeing in the live stream chat, well, gee, Kit, I mean, hasn't AOC already gone after the progressive left? I mean, let's face it, AOC was quick to jump on board to start attacking Jimmy Dore or anyone else that used to be her most diehard supporter. Again, when you are a politician and you are calling for what I guess in her mind is accountability, but what I have to say is, AOC, you seem to be a little too late in regards to corporate media being held accountable. And look, guys, I get it. Fox News, it's an establishment media outlet too, but you know, ABC, CNN, MSNBC, CBS, they have done their fair share of spreading misinformation and lies. They have done their fair share in promoting false information. They're not innocent. And even though big tech seems to favor them, especially with the YouTube algorithm and so much more, Twitter, Facebook, etc., what should concern all of you is that here you have somebody who, I guess, apparently in 2018 was, or maybe put on a good act and assuming that she cared about progressive issues, but then, wow, how quickly has she turned? The quote, Michael Scott, my oh my, have the turntables now have turned. Yes, exactly. Again, freedom of speech is fundamental for our democracy, for our republic, for a free press. But she's calling for the silence of Tucker Carlson, but is she going to call for what? The Biden-Harris administration to stop smearing or trying to go after for activists? For black socialists? I mean, come on. I mean, seriously, this is a huge concern, a big, gigantic red flag. This is a danger. And look, I get it. So many people have Trump derangement syndrome, and January 6th seemed to really paralyze a lot of people. And so many people are afraid of the orange Cheeto. But the thing is, look, I get it. I get all of the fear around Trump. I get it, but the real depressing dark truth is this. And this is a real fact. There are people currently in power, be it in Washington, D.C., or controlling Wall Street or the big banks, that are far more evil, far more brutal, more devious than Donald Trump. It's easy to vilify him because, hey, Trump is probably the most transparent president we've ever had. At least when he gives you the middle finger, he's up front with it. I don't know what AOC's priorities are, but if we keep pushing down this pathway of censorship, silence, accusing others of violence, pretty soon no one's going to be able to speak. And I don't care if you're libertarian, green, socialist, Democrat, Republican. I don't care if you're a boomer, Gen Xer, millennial, Gen Z, the color of your skin, who you worship. This concerns all of you, whether you like it or not. This concerns all of you because freedom of speech, a free press is needed. I hope things don't get worse, but unfortunately, my gut is telling me it will.